Hey, stop reading ahead.
Huh?
The first Fantastic Four? It's okay.
Yeah. I only liked it because of Jessica Alba.
Okay, are you recording?
Yeah, yeah.
Great. Okay, cool.
You're recording already. Yep, yep.
All right. All right, here we go. Welcome to episode 1 of Absolutely the Best Podcast, A Work in Progress. Season 1, episode 1. We're talking about Iron Man. We'll be ranking that in the MCU series. Since it's the first one, I'm pretty sure I know where it's going to fall. With me is George, and let's get right into it. So Iron Man from 2008. This is the beginning of the MCU. I'm a little curious as to which point Kevin Feige decided that this one movie was going to turn into 20 movies and then more beyond that.
I don't think that they had an idea. From what I'm reading or from what I've read, I don't think that at the time they intended it to like launch the entire MCU. It was more of a let's do this and let's see how it goes. And then it just happened to be like that was this like how well Iron Man did became that seminal milestone for like the MCU officially starting.
Yeah,
'Cause-
I mean, it's definitely a strong start.
Yeah, it was one of the best. I remember like watching it and seeing Iron Man or seeing RDJ suit up for the first time. I think was equivalent to our parents seeing Christopher Reeves fly in the original
Yeah, I
Superman.
can see that. I can see that.
I just thought like, oh shoot, yeah, we can actually build a suit of armor now.
Yeah.
But yeah,
For the listener, we're definitely going to spoil this movie, so if you haven't seen it, what's your excuse? I don't know. I mean, you should have seen this multiple times already. We're not going to do a full recap. It's too much. It'll take too much time and too much editing. So it's best if you're familiar with the movie, but if you're not, I think you can still listen to the podcast. It's going to be fine. We will give a quick ChatGPT recap of the movie. We have billionaire industrialist Tony Stark, who's played by Robert Downey Jr., is captured by terrorists while demonstrating his company's weapons in Afghanistan. He constructs a high-tech suit of armor to escape and returns home determined to use his engineering skills for good. Stark transforms himself into the armored superhero known as Iron Man, battling both his own inner demons and external threats. With the help of his assistant, Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow, and his friend Rhodey, played by Terrence Howard for now, Stark takes on the villainous Obadiah Stane, played by Jeff Bridges, and establishes himself as a heroic figure. So this one's directed by Jon Favreau, who I knew of from
Swingers.
Swingers. Thank you. That's it.
Yep.
The screenplay, I've never heard of any of these guys. It's written by Mark Fergus, Hawk Ostby,
Yeah, I don't know any of
and
these guys.
Art Markham. And Matt Holloway. Those 4 people. Never heard of any of them, but hey, good job on the screenplay, guys. I remember I saw this one in the theater when it was first out. I'm sure you did too, right?
Yep.
And I remember being pretty impressed at the time with it, and rewatching it for the podcast, it totally holds up. This is a good movie. It came out a few years after Batman Begins, and just before The Dark Knight came out. X-Men had kind of already fizzled out. X-Men 2 being great, and then X-Men 3 being pretty bad.
It's a pretty nice way of putting it.
I'm trying to be kind. There were other bad superhero movies like Elektra, Superman Returns, Ghost Rider, Spider-Man 3. I know some people actually love that movie. I did not think it was very good. Not relative to the first 2 anyway. That would be the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. And Fantastic Four, which I thought was okay. I think George might have different feelings on that one. And of course, the sequel, Rise of the Silver Surfer, was pretty terrible. And then Iron Man came out and kind of gave me hope for superhero movies again, because we had kind of had to slog through a lot of mediocre at best movies.
Yep.
It reminded me a lot of Batman Begins in the way that it handled the story. Also, both those movies, both Batman Begins and Iron Man, involve some rich guy who invents a bunch of stuff to fight bad guys. So, and that way it reminded me that as well. George is going to tear into me for this. When I first saw Iron Man, I don't think I recognized that there was a difference between DC and Marvel. I'm still not an expert on it, I would say, but there is the very clear delineation now.
Yeah.
I definitely favor the Marvel movies.
They're good universes. They're just one group is doing way better at telling the story and the narrative than the other.
Well, my understanding also is that when it comes to the comics, that both are good.
Yeah, no, they're both awesome in their own right. That we'll have to another season on DC. And since
I don't know if I can sit through some of those again.
since we have our own opinions on where DC went wrong, I think. But we both have a lot of hope for James Gunn.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I will definitely give him the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to significant characters and events in Iron Man. Obviously, Tony Stark, played by Robert Downey Jr. He has a way of just acting like a totally smug prick that I really love. I don't know how he does it. He just his attitude on screen, it's captivating, but at the same time, you can tell he's not really a good guy. He's not a bad guy, but he's not a good guy either.
Yeah.
I kind of get the feeling he's like that in real life. It reminds me a lot of when he was in Weird Science. I don't know if you remember him in Weird Science. He's like kind of one of the bullies. He dumps the slushy on
Right, on Wyatt. Right.
Yeah,
That's right. I forgot about
that was back in his bad boy days. I a little bit wonder if Iron Man was Robert Downey Jr.'s comeback. He was in some other good stuff before this. Kiss Kiss Bang Bang in 2005. Scanner Darkly in 2006. I didn't love that movie, but
Did he do Sherlock Holmes before this too? The first Sherlock Holmes?
Maybe I'm not sure.
He was pretty good in that.
Yeah, he's good in Sherlock Holmes. I do like him in that. I don't think those are good movies, but I do like him in it.
Yeah.
And what was I saying? So he apparently has done a movie pretty much every year, except 2001, which was when he was in rehab. A lot of this information I pulled from Wikipedia because International Movie Database is kind of unusable now. It used to be a really good website. I don't know what they did to it. So as soon as he shows up at the beginning of the movie, he's instantly likable. As I said, he's not really a nice or a good guy, but he's a likable guy, and he's got a lot of charisma, and he's funny. So he plays a billionaire arms dealer, and he's the head of Stark Industries, which makes weapons for the U.S. And apparently for other countries too. And he's the genius son of legendary weapons developer Howard Stark. And this story is Tony's arc to becoming a good guy. Next up we have James Rhodey Rhodes, played by Terrence Howard. This is Tony's best friend. For some reason, so he's Tony's best friend. But I'm not sure how it's explained in the comics why they were friends, because it's just, why is he friends with this lieutenant colonel in the Air Force?
Oh, I vaguely remember it in the comics, but he was one of the few people that he actually trusted, and he became War Machine for a reason. I don't remember the origins of like their friendship, to be honest, though.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It just seemed weird to me.
I just like
Unusual.
I do think that Don Cheadle ended up being like a really good not stand-in, but he ended up embodying Rhodey pretty well for me. I know Terrence Howard had that like, what's that meme now that all the kids say, main character energy?
Oh.
where he like the way he was like,
Next time, baby.
it was almost like they were preparing for their own like War Machine movie.
Right.
In the middle of like an Iron Man movie.
Yeah, he kind of jinxed it with that, though. Cause
Yeah.
they ended up cutting him out and replacing him later with Don Cheadle.
Yeah. I did enjoy his performance, but I think in the long term, I enjoyed Don Cheadle's.
Yeah, and it sounds like Terrence Howard's not really a particularly good person.
Oh.
It sounds like he's got problems. I hope he gets them worked out. So we have Obadiah Stane, played by Jeff Bridges. I love Jeff Bridges. I really don't like this role for him.
Oh, really?
I don't, because he ends up being the bad guy. It wasn't really that much of a surprise, really, but I don't like to see him as a bad guy. I just want to see him be the dude in The Big Lebowski and just do more
Right.
of that. But he is a great actor. I will give him that.
See, I don't know. I think this is one of my first points disagreeing with you was that like his casting to me was like pretty awesome, because he just comes out. I mean, yes, he's the Big Lebowski, but he's just like this nice, warm, friendly guy.
He's so good at that. He is. Yeah.
And so when he was like the bad guy, like you kind of knew that he was gonna be the bad guy because he was a little too nice. But when he did make that change, especially when he started using all the devices on people, it became like, oh, this is a nice. Especially with the Warmonger armor and stuff,
Yeah.
like that was pretty nice.
Well, and I've seen the movie enough times where I think I've come around on it. And again, his performance is great. No complaints there. I just didn't want to see him be the bad guy.
Yep.
Pepper Potts, played by Gwyneth Paltrow. That's Tony's assistant and eventual love interest. He doesn't really happen in this movie. It kind of starts to. Kind of felt like this was a bit of a cliched role, but she played it well.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings about her in general. She's usually a very good actress, but I don't care for what she does outside of acting, like her Goop company. But that didn't really, doesn't really affect my viewing of the movie. So no points against anyone there, I guess.
She was just okay for me. Like she wasn't good, but she wasn't bad. She was kind of doing a good enough job phoning it in that I didn't mind seeing her in the rest of the MCU.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair. Let's see. You have Happy, played by Jon Favreau, so he directed and is playing a small part. I guess he's Tony's driver for sure, but he's also like a bodyguard. It's not really too clear to me. He gets bigger roles in the sequels and the other MCU movies. I think he's a competent director and a good actor. And he had good material to work with, and I think he did good here.
Yeah. He directed Elf since Christmas time, or I guess Christmas is already passed.
Oh, that's
but
right.
He directed Elf.
My wife tries to get me to watch that every Christmas, and I always fall asleep. I like it, but
You've seen it enough.
Yeah. Let's see. Jarvis, which is the computer. I don't know what that stands for, but
Something
well, if you know it off the top of
augmented.
your head, I'm impressed.
No, the AR stands for augmented reality something or other, I think.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, was it always Paul Bettany?
It was always Paul
really?
Bettany, which is interesting, and we'll get to that.
That's
But this
awesome.
is Jarvis is Tony's like AI. He made it himself. It's his AI helper, I guess. I don't know. It's his artificial intelligence. It's his computer that he talks to and it does things for him. So that's voiced by Paul Bettany, and I think that's interesting because later on Jarvis becomes Vision, who is played by Paul Bettany, and that's the second Avengers movie, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
So that's, I don't know, what's that, 10 movies in?
Yeah, actually, Paul
like
Bettany
that.
was perfect casting. So
Yeah,
I
so
think,
I wonder, like, how far ahead were they thinking here? The last person I have of note in the cast, certainly there's more characters in this, but the last person I have is Coulson, played by Clark Gregg. I really like Coulson a lot. He is in a lot of the movies, like usually plays a small part. I feel like this is kind of a bigger part for him. He's kind of behind the scenes. He's an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then he had that TV show, which in hindsight was probably kind of mediocre, but I enjoyed it. I watched the
I
whole
liked
thing.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it just fine.
There was some cool stuff that happened on that show. That might be a season at some point, or like a Patreon extra or something. The thing that I remember most from the trailers is when Tony goes to do the weapons demo, which is at the beginning of the movie, and he asks,
Is it better to be feared or respected? And I say, is it too much to ask for both?
and then he demos the Stark Industries, was it the Jericho missile or
Yep,
something?
the Jericho missile. Yep.
But before that, he says,
They say the best weapon is one you never have to fire. I respectfully disagree. I prefer the weapon you only have to fire once. That's how Dad did it. That's how America does it. And it's worked out pretty well so far.
that is like a super memorable quote and part of the movie for me. Like that kind of embodies the entire theme of the movie to me.
To me, that was Tony Stark pre-Iron Man like attitude. And it's interesting seeing him go from that to who he is at the end of the movie.
It's the beginning of his arc.
Yeah.
One part of the movie that I really like is early on, after Tony's captured, he's in the cave with the doctor. They're just talking a little bit, and the doctor says something to the effect of that he will see his family when he leaves there. And I feel like that's foreshadowing because later on you find out that his family's dead, and then he dies, so he is going to see his family when he leaves there.
Yeah.
But I can't remember, like when I first saw the movie, was that like, oh, he's going to die and his family's dead? like had I had it figured out? Or is it just because I've seen it so many times that like, in this watch through, I was like, oh yeah, that guy's family's dead. That's what he means.
Yeah, I mean, I'll never know because I think having read the comic book, I knew he was gonna die.
Oh, all right. He's in the comic then.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's definitely
So
in the
this
comic
sticks
book.
pretty
Yeah.
close to the comic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. That's why it was awesome seeing the first, whatever, I forget whatever, the first suit when you first put it together, because like seeing the original Iron Man suit from the cave and everything was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Like,
I like that suit a lot because it's not practical really, but like
Yeah.
for movie magic, it's like kind of practical.
just good enough for you to go like, oh yeah, I could probably do that if I put my mind to it.
Well, and they did actually, it's like for the movie, they did actually build that suit. That one is not CG.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, but I mean, like, if you could ignore the arc reactor part,
Sure. Yeah,
like
yeah.
having something actually power something that heavy seems pretty awesome.
Okay, so some notes about the part where Tony builds an improved arc reactor and he's swapping it out and he needs Pepper to help him. It seemed kind of unnecessary to me, but it gives them a moment together, and there's a good mix of tension and humor. It does kind of have some importance though, because Pepper takes the old arc reactor and gets it, I guess you'd call it framed. It's more like put in an acrylic box. But then it's got a little plaque on it that says proof that Tony Stark has a heart. And, you know, in the movie, in the Iron Man movie, that's, I guess, kind of cute or whatever. But that comes back 19 movies later, 20 movies later in Endgame when, spoiler alert, Iron Man dies and they're having the memorial for him at the end and they have that there. And I remember maybe my eyes getting a little sweaty at that scene. The other thing about swapping out the arc reactor, which I guess is what makes it important and why they draw your attention to it, is that so now there are 2 arc reactors that he can use because later on Stain steals the one that he has in his chest and he has to go get the other one. Tony has to go get the other one and put it in. And that's actually kind of a gripe that I have too, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, what was your gripe with that again?
We'll get to that.
Okay. It's interesting seeing like did you watch Into the Spider-Verse and how they have like these canon events for the superheroes?
Is Into the Spider-Verse the first one or the second one?
The second one.
I didn't see that one yet.
Okay, never mind.
Okay. No spoilers.
In that case, no spoilers.
I was going to say I'm caught up. Like that's not MCU, right? Because I think it is
technically MCU.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay. Then I'm not caught up on the MCU.
think.
I was going to brag that I was all caught up, but I guess I'm not.
Yeah. Anyway,
Is that on Disney yet? Do you know?
it's on Netflix now.
Spider-Verse is on Netflix?
Yeah.
All right. I got no excuse. I'll watch it. Okay, other highlights. Early on, Tony's getting this Apogee Award, which kind of sounds made up, but it's apparently a real thing. The Apogee Awards is a unique awards program created by South Florida Business and Wealth magazine. I can't believe that's a magazine. To recognize distinguished C-suite leaders whose dedication to their industries and community deserve particular recognition. So it's like, you know, awards for CEOs and chief financial officers and all that stuff. It sounds like stuffy old white guy awards. And that's probably why Tony skips out on it. So I feel like it's kind of a burn on the real life award.
Maybe.
Let's see. Oh, I like this is pretty good. There's the scene where Tony hooks up with the reporter,
Leslie Bibb.
played by Leslie Bibb, who I often confuse for Maggie Grace. And the next morning, Jarvis, the AI, wakes up the reporter, and he's not like trying to get her to go or whatever, but he wakes her up, and she starts snooping around his house. And then Pepper comes in to try to get her out. And the reporter makes kind of a snide remark about Pepper needing to go get Tony's dry cleaning and stuff.
After all these years, Tony still has you picking up the dry cleaning.
But then Pepper slaps back pretty quickly, saying,
I do anything and everything that Mr. Stark requires, including occasionally taking out the trash.
I like that one. That was pretty good.
That was a pretty sick burn.
Oh, all right. So getting into the
Arc reactor.
Yeah, the arc reactor. I don't know about you, but like I'm a fan of body horror, but it does freak me out. And like the arc reactor, the idea of having that like in your like it's right in his sternum, right? So like there's bone missing and stuff. So like that really freaks me out. And every time I watch the movie, it's very uncomfortable for me. Anytime he's doing something with that arc reactor in his chest.
Well, I'm just like, what did they do to it when they took the arc reactor out? Was it Iron Man 2?
Yeah.
Iron Man 2 is
Like how do they fill in the hole?
Yeah. Without your body rejecting it.
Yeah.
That was one of my unsolved mysteries of the MCU's. How exactly did they fill that in?
Yeah. Maybe as a prosthetic, just a plug.
Yeah. I mean, I think by then they've sold you on the idea that Tony Stark's a ridiculous level genius, a genius among geniuses even, so you're just like, oh yeah, he figured something out.
For sure. The whole arc reactor in his chest, it just looks barbaric and it's hard for me to look at. I do like that none of the tech is over-explained. Like the arc reactor, there's some technical babble, but not that much. It's an impossible device. They don't make it worse by trying to rationalize it or explain it. You know, there are some parts where Tony's designing and optimizing later revisions of the suit, and he's talking, it just sounds like technical word salad, but they don't lean too hard on this. I give it a total pass. I'm a stickler for scientific details, but this was not ruining my experience with the movie. The rest of the movie is good enough where I can let that slide for sure.
Right. This isn't a helicopters carrying Jaegers in Pacific Rim moment for you.
No. There's worse moments in Pacific Rim. We can get to that later. See, I really like the Mark I suit, the one they built in the cave.
Yeah.
It's like I mentioned before, they actually built that in real life to film the movie. Obviously, it's not like a powered suit. They just had like a strong guy in there moving it around. But I thought it was cool. It's kind of believable getting back to the realism of the movie. And I like that it's got 2 flamethrowers. That was pretty rad.
Yeah.
What's the white LED budget on this film? There sure are a lot of them.
Everywhere.
So Stan Lee, if you don't know, he has until he died, actually even I think in a couple movies after he died, he has a cameo in most of the MCU movies. Is he doing a cameo as Hugh Hefner, or is he just dressed like Hugh Hefner? Do you remember the scene? Like,
Yeah.
I think it's like at the casino, right, where the Apogee Awards are happening.
Yeah, I think he was playing Hugh Hefner.
Okay, that was an interesting choice.
Because in all the other Marvel movies, he's not really playing anybody. He just happens
It's
to
just
be
some dude.
Yeah, he just happens.
Yeah. So I guess my question was like, is he supposed to be Hugh Hefner, or does Tony just mistake him for Hugh Hefner? Because he does say
I
like
thought
"Hi
about that
Hugh"
one.
or something like that. Let's see. Oh, you mentioned this earlier about Rhodey saying "next time, baby," and I just thought that's kind of ironic since he doesn't. The actor does not return. I also like that Tony and Pepper don't really get together in this movie. Like, it would have been too much too soon. Obviously, later on, they are together and have a child by Endgame.
Right.
But I'm glad they didn't get into that too much. I didn't need a love story in this movie. Okay, you got anything else to add for the pros, the highlights?
I think overall character development and his arc in this, even up to the moment when he ends the press release with "I am Iron Man," that was like unscripted. The "I am Iron Man" thing.
Well,
right?
it's interesting. I'd forgotten that he actually said that in the first movie, because I know it was kind of a bigger deal in Endgame when he says it, and that was also originally unscripted. But then they were like, "You got to have him say this."
Right. Towards the end, right? Yeah, they brought him back like 3 months after they finished filming just to
something
do
like
that.
that.
Yeah. I think of everybody in the MCU, even more so than Captain America, his story arc was just like so well done.
I agree. He definitely has the most well-defined arc, and I mean it's all in this one movie too.
Yeah.
I'm a Captain America stan, and I do like him better.
Yeah.
But I will concede that point.
That's because Civil War was amazing.
Yeah. I just like that Captain America is a good guy. Like, he is the good guy.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Anyways, so all right, moving on to issues and lowlights then. I don't like the beginning of the movie is told out of order. I thought it was kind of unnecessary. They have the part where he is demonstrating the missile, the Jericho missile, and gets kidnapped, and then it flashes back to before that, and then they kind of work their way back up to that point. I feel like they didn't really need to do that. They could have instead just done it chronologically, and it would have been a long opening, but after he escapes in the Mach 1 suit and then crashes, like, that would have been a cool time to have like the Iron Man title card, but it probably would have been like 30 minutes into the movie. Wouldn't be the first time that happened, but
That would have been a way into the movie, yeah.
yeah, that's a pretty minor gripe though. I mean, it again didn't ruin my enjoyment of the movie. I don't think any of my complaints really matter that much. See, this was interesting. So at one point, Tony gets stopped by a reporter. I think it's
Leslie Bibb.
Leslie Bibb. I almost said Maggie Grace. She asks him she asks him a bunch of questions, and she's asking him questions about being a weapons dealer or weapons manufacturer. And one of his responses is he quotes his dad saying, "Peace means having a bigger stick than the other guy." And he says that his dad helped defeat the Nazis. And so wouldn't his dad, based on the other movies that show his dad, I feel like his dad would have been like 10 at most in World War II. Like, how did his dad help defeat the Nazis?
No, his dad was in like the first Captain America, right?
Right.
And that was around.
Well, I guess
Red
my
Skull Nazi
to change
time.
my complaint is then why is his dad so much younger in the later movies? Because so if his dad was like helping them defeat Nazis in World War II, maybe he's 25, right? So that makes it 25 in like 1942, 1944, right? So then I don't know, how old is Tony? I feel like the math doesn't add up there. Again, minor gripe. This is not planned out. Like, this is the first movie, and I'm complaining about something 20 movies later.
Right.
So it doesn't really matter. But
also he was probably already wanting to just bang the reporter. So
that's true.
that's what I try, like, without doing all the mental math. I just assumed
he could just be like making things up. Didn't occur to me. That's an excellent point. I also kind of, when Tony has talked about his dad, it made him sound like kind of a warmonger.
Hmm.
But then I like later on that you find out he was actually a pretty decent guy. Maybe he wasn't there all the time, but they have like that good moment in Endgame.
Yeah.
That could be a retcon that they put in place later on, but I like it. I like the character of his dad in later movies where judging by what you know about him in this movie, I wouldn't have expected to like.
Yeah. I always took Howard Stark as actually like having a similar arc to like Tony's in that because he was also a genius in his own right, all of his inventions and stuff ended up getting used by he ended up co-founding Shield, I think, and with along with like wasn't it Peggy Carter
Yeah.
and Hank Pym. And so I think all the technology he had made ended up just going towards military contracts and whatnot. And I guess all of that helped with the Shield budget, which I just assumed was just I'm losing my track here. But long story short, I think like his technology ended up going toward just being sold, making tons of money, him tons of money, but also giving him the ability and the resources to create the inventions that they ended up using for like Shield and everybody else. Because clearly that tech didn't go out to like everybody else, like the regular like the missiles and stuff that the majority of his
Yeah, that's a
fortune
good
went
point.
to.
That's a valid
Yeah.
point. I just thought it was a little problematic with the phrasing when Tony's talking about the Jericho missile, and he says like,
Find an excuse to let one of these off the chain, and I personally guarantee you the bad guys won't even want to come out of their caves.
I just thought come out of their caves was a little problematic. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's emblematic of where he was mentally too, right?
That's a good point.
So,
Yeah.
but like that's why like seeing him go from that to wanting to do the whole suit of armor around the world and that being his character arc too is just like, hey, he did evolve like quite a bit from where his original thought processes
Yeah.
were.
Okay, so when Tony's vehicle gets attacked, I'm not sure if it was his vehicle that got hit. Certainly the one in front of him got hit. Where was Rhodey? he was supposed to be in the vehicle behind them, but what happened to him? Because like I would have just assumed everybody got slaughtered except for Tony, and then he's missing from the movie for a little bit. Like you don't
Yeah.
actually know, and then later on he just shows up. He was like, "Yeah, we were looking for you, Tony."
Yeah, I just assumed he was because they didn't all die. I think
No,
because
certainly
clearly
not.
like Rhodey survived. So I think the whole like and I think the whole point was to kill Tony. And then the guy changed the deal in the middle by like kidnapping him instead
Oh,
and then taking out because remember they were like you were supposed to kill him and he was like we changed our mind we want X million dollars instead.
I forgot about that. That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Tony's got the arc reactor in his chest, and then I don't know when it happened, but I noticed that then the arc reactor is going through his shirts. And so, like, does he cut a hole in each one of his shirts?
I mean when you're rich.
I guess, yeah. Just have a new shirt for every day. It gets a little goofy in the middle when he's testing the Mach 2 suit and crashes it.
Hmm.
And when he's testing the Mach 3 suit, and it's kind of like wackiness ensuing.
Yeah.
I've seen the movie enough times where I know I just got to get through that. But that's where I lose interest. I mean, that'd be a good bathroom break if you see it in the theater.
Yeah. Actually, I liked that part because I think I was living in Santa Monica at the time. So
Oh,
seeing all
nice.
of like I know they CGI'd his mansion into the cliffs near Malibu somewhere,
Hmm.
but like just seeing him fly around in places that like you totally know and like all the Santa Monica and like LA landmarks was pretty awesome.
That's cool. The Mark 3 suit kind of requires a lot of help from the robot arms for him to get it on, which I don't love that, but I prefer it to later designs in other movies where it's basically a bunch of nanobots that
Mm.
don't have any weight to them and, until they become a suit, and then they're heavy. Like there's a lot of physics being broken there in the later movies. Even the suitcase suit in Iron Man 2 is a little too unrealistic for me. But I get why they have to do that. And actually, especially with the nanobot one in Infinity War and in Endgame, the way that it can change is pretty important to, at least, if not the plot, to some of the fighting that happens in there. So,
Yeah.
I can let that slide, and that's not
Yeah.
even in this movie.
Yeah.
But I do, it's starting to encroach into unrealistic territory for me.
Oh, the nanobot stuff?
Well, definitely the nanobot stuff, but
Yeah.
like that he needs all these robots to help him get the stuff on, and it's just impractical, I guess I should say. Not unrealistic, but
The nanobots or
impractical.
the gantry thing?
The gantry.
Oh, see, like I actually loved that gantry scene. Well, also because I think I saw an interview with Jon Favreau where he was talking about how they wanted to create this like feeling of watching a knight being given armor and then armoring up
Okay.
by like their squires and stuff.
Yeah.
Except since he's Iron Man, you just have these robots just basically piling on, ratcheting and tightening up the suit in all the different places. I liked it a lot just because it looked like a lot of really practical armor adjustments happening. Just like even when like pilots test out the ailerons before they take off and you see the little surface movements
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the armor
yeah.
and stuff, I thought those little touches were like awesome.
It does have a lot of good detail like that.
Yeah, like that's why I love. Like that's kind of why I actually didn't like the nanobot versions, because then it just his tracksuit is just a bunch of nanobots and then it turns into his armor. I actually liked his older armor better.
I agree. But again, and we'll get to it if we ever
Yeah.
get
For
to
the to
Endgame.
Endgame.
But yeah, it makes for some cool moments.
Yeah.
So I guess probably my biggest gripe in this particular movie is the entire reason he has the chest implant is to keep shrapnel from when the vehicle got bombed, to keep it from quote unquote migrating to his heart. There's no explanation beyond that. I don't really think one is necessary. You can imagine. Apparently, they couldn't safely remove the shrapnel from his heart in the cave. I guess maybe it's too late after that. Whatever. And I also feel like the body would eventually push it out. But if I'm accepting that he needs that thing in his chest to keep it from moving, keep him alive, to keep him alive by preventing the shrapnel from hitting his heart, I should say. Okay, I'll buy that. That's fine. But then later on in the movie, after he's got his second iteration of the arc reactor put in, and Pepper has put the first one in that acrylic box, Obadiah Stane comes and steals the one out of his chest, and it's like he's gonna die. It's like it's like he needed battery power to live. And I'm like, it's not like the shrapnel is suddenly moving to his heart and slowly killing him, right? Like it doesn't make sense to me. And they make a big deal out of him like having to get to that spare arc reactor. I thought it was totally unnecessary. He could have just been like, oh well, oh yeah, I got another arc reactor. I can go fight this dude. I think it could have been handled differently. But they make it look like, it's his literal battery power, and I thought that was kind of dumb.
No, I don't disagree there. I think they hide. There was a lot hidden there by the power of magnetism
Yes.
or whatever. It's just you just wave your hands around enough and people won't question it.
Yeah. I will say it probably took me 3 or 4 viewings before I, caught that problem. See, I didn't care for the voice modulation on Jeff Bridges when he's in the ironmonger suit. But again, I just don't want to see him be a bad guy. So it was probably just a furthering that complaint that I have. Do you have anything else in the cons list?
No,
You're super
I ended
positive
up.
on this.
I
I'm
actually
very
really
positive.
liked his voice.
Okay, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
very positive on this movie. You seem like you're even more so.
No, yeah, it's still. I mean, to me, it's just one of the. It's like such a landmark movie for that whole universe, just because it was the beginning. I think that was the beginning of Kevin Feige's.
I mean, they came out of the gate hot.
Yeah, it was just so good.
Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about alternate casting, movie extras, and I mean, you've already talked quite a bit about the comics, which I appreciate. But if we get to something in here regarding the comics, you just let me know. The MCU is kind of known for stingers at the end of the movie. There's no mid-credit scene in this one. They hadn't started that yet. But the post-credit scene has Coulson recruiting Tony for the Avengers Initiative. So that's the first time that they talk about the Avengers in the MCU. So already in the first movie. So again, this kind of goes back to the beginning of our discussion. How far out had they planned when they put this movie out? I'm sure that stinger is something that they filmed later on.
Right.
It could have been like a reshoot, but
Didn't the Incredible Hulk have a Tony Stark cameo in it?
I think it
did,
might. I think it might. Yeah, at the end. But
And that
that's
was that before this or
No,
after?
we're going in order. It goes Iron Man, then Incredible Hulk.
Oh, got it. Yeah, the timeline on the Incredible Hulk movies like confuses me sometimes.
I've actually already started on the Hulk.
Nice.
Trying to get ahead of the game. See, I watched it for this podcast. My most recent watching was on iTunes, and so I decided I'd check out the extras, see if there's anything good. I was hoping for a director commentary. I think Jon Favreau would probably have done.
It would have been funny.
Yeah, it would have been funny and informative, and maybe if they had Robert Downey on there as well. But I
Yeah.
couldn't find access to a commentary for anything that I had. But I did watch the extras, so there's some deleted scenes that, I don't know if any of it was really worthwhile. There's a longer version of Tony gambling before the Apogee Award. Nothing really of note there. It made sense to why they cut it. There's a scene where Tony comes home after he's been captured and escapes, and Jarvis welcomes him home. This was clearly a unfinished scene because Jarvis has a different voice. So I guess Paul Bettany never did the voicing for that part. It is very similar looking though, because I feel like they've either reused part of the scene from the post-credits stinger where Coulson shows up and recruits him for the Avengers, because it looks very similar.
Yeah.
Sorry, was it Coulson who showed up at the end, or was it?
I thought it was
It was
Nick Fury.
yeah, Fury. I think it's
Yeah.
Fury. I think I misspoke before. So we'll probably get an email about that. Where was I? So it kind of looks like maybe they reused part of that scene, or else maybe it was just shot on the same day and in the same set. I mean, it looked exactly the same to me, although I did not watch them side by side. I'm not that committed. That was another one that they probably just cut it for pacing, get the time down. It was totally not necessary. There's some test scenes with Robert Downey Jr. talking to a reporter. It's not Leslie Bibb. It's just a test scene. It's
Right.
fine, but nothing of note. There's a table read for the Humvee scene. It's Tony talking to Rhodey about being Iron Man. Again, it's not Terrence Howard as Rhodey in this scene. Maybe that's foretelling. And they give it a sneak peek of Iron Man 2, but I didn't watch it. Spoiler alert, I don't really like Iron Man 2 that much.
Oh, I didn't like it at all.
We'll get to that one in a few episodes, I guess. I got one more thing for you. I got to look. I didn't want you to see it. I put it in separate notes. After I watched all the iTunes extras, for whatever reason, I was browsing on Disney, and it's obviously on Disney, and I was like, oh, they have different extras.
Oh.
So I was watching. Actually, they were a lot better, to be honest.
The Disney extras?
Yeah. For
I'll
Iron
have to
Man.
look
So
at that.
I was watching some of those. It was a lot more like documentary stuff, pretty short, but they were a lot better, I thought. Oh yeah, Disney Plus extras. So they have an extra where they're talking to a guy who plays Obadiah Stane's scientist. Like, I remember if you're a guy in a lab coat, it's kind of got male
Yeah,
pattern.
the
male
guy he was
pattern-
scolding, right?
Yeah. All right,
Yeah.
and male pattern baldness and a mustache. Do you know who that is?
No. I don't. I vaguely remember reading about this, but no, it escapes me right now.
I don't know
Was
if
that Sam Raimi?
No, but
No. Okay.
I mean, you're not that far off, really.
Yeah.
I don't know if you'll recognize the name I Billingsley.
Oh wait, no. I
Okay.
mean that the name
So
sounds somewhat
I'm
familiar.
I'm gonna clue you in a little bit here at a time.
Yeah.
So he's the executive producer of the movie, first of all, and so the lab guy that he plays is William Ginter Riva.
Right.
So he's not bald. He doesn't normally have a mustache. So like he grew a mustache and they shaved no pattern
Okay.
baldness.
Yeah.
So he looked the part. Peter Billingsley is the kid in A Christmas Story.
That's what it was.
I didn't
Yeah,
realize he's like a
yeah.
movie producer now. Like he's produced a bunch of stuff.
I mean, Chunk from Goonies is like a high-profile lawyer, like entertainment lawyer.
I did not know that. All right.
But interesting. I remember reading that, going, how random.
That was interesting. Yeah, I thought that one kind of blew my mind a little bit. I'm glad he's doing well. A lot of child actors end up in trouble. All right. So let's see. Some alternate casting notes. Stuart Gordon was originally supposed to direct a low-budget Iron Man movie in the early 90s. This is the guy who directed Reanimator, From Beyond, and Body Snatchers, the 93 remake of Body Snatchers specifically. He also directed Dagon, I'm not sure how that's spelled. That's
Dagon.
who's the Cthulhu guy?
Oh man, I'm blanking.
It's a couple of initials and then a name.
H.K. Love or something.
H.P. Lovecraft. Yeah,
H.P.
H.P. Lovecraft. There we go. That's
HK
it's
's
a
a gun.
Lovecraft story. From Beyond is also Lovecraft, and I think
Yeah.
Reanimator might be too. Same guy. He also wrote the story or got some sort of writing credit on Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and Honey, I Blew Up the Kids, as well as The Dentist, which is like a bad horror movie.
Interesting. That would have been very random.
I don't even know what that would have been like if that guy made an Iron Man movie in the
Right.
in the 90s. That would have been pretty crazy.
I mean, just a The idea of a low budget Iron Man, I almost don't.
Yeah. She's got a Halloween costume on.
Yeah, that would have definitely not kickstarted the MCU.
Nicolas Cage and Tom Cruise both had expressed interest in playing Tony Stark
Right.
in the late 90s, before this movie was ever greenlighted. Tarantino at one point was asked to write and direct. That would have been pretty wild. And Joss Whedon was also approached, which is interesting because he later on picked up the first two Avengers movies.
Yep.
As far as casting goes, the director, Jon Favreau, originally wanted like a total nobody to star. He wanted Tony to be a total unknown.
Right.
He also later considered Sam Rockwell, I like him as an actor. I don't think he would have been right for the role.
I don't like his Justin Hammer.
I was going to say, so it's also interesting because he shows up as Justin Hammer in
Yeah.
well, I didn't remember the name, but now that you said it, he's the bad guy in Iron Man 2.
Yeah. Like I like him enough as an actor, but like yeah, his Justin Hammer just is more annoying than anything.
I just basically don't like that movie.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it didn't help that Iron Man 2
yeah.
was just overall not so great.
At one point, Clive Owen was slated to be Iron Man
Right.
/ Tony Stark, and he is a great actor. I love him. He would have been so wrong for the role. I don't think he could have done like the quippy snarkiness that Robert Downey Jr. does.
Yeah, yeah, he was just perfect. Even if they'd done a nobody or if they'd gone with Tom Cruise, or Clive
Tom Cruise
Owen,
would have been terrible.
well, I mean, he has a look, but none of them, and I don't really. I mean, I'd bet more money that isn't really a nobody out there that can thread the needle of what Robert Downey Jr. did with Tony Stark, just in terms of being like an a-hole and a rich a-hole to begin with, and then turning into this,
But still likable.
yeah, but still likable and still funny, into like this really likable billionaire, funny, problematic hero in his own right, and just being just all around an awesome Iron Man. And I don't know who'd be able to thread that needle really. Because like yeah, nobody that was alternatively like being looked at as a possible Iron Man, none of them fit. Even just the look, with his goatee and everything, it's like he leaped out of the comic books. So it's kind of
Yeah, he's
crazy.
great. He's perfect.
Yeah.
No complaints. So we talked about Terrence Howard
Yes.
not making it into the next movie and being replaced by Don Cheadle, but actually Don Cheadle was considered for the role initially before they cast Terrence Howard. I'm not really sure
Right.
why he didn't get it. I don't know if he wasn't interested or had other commitments, but
Yeah.
he was actually also considered. So it makes sense that they decided to go with him for the later movies.
Yep.
Let's see. Changes. Are there any changes we would have liked to have seen? I already mentioned the preference for the chronological order at the beginning.
Mhm.
And the problem with the arc reactor seeming to suddenly be what's powering Tony near the end. But it's going to take this movie from like a 92 to a 94 for me. Like it's not that big a deal. Those are very minor complaints that I have.
Right.
Anything you would have changed? I'm guessing no.
Um, Not really. I mean, I guess in that Warmonger story, no, it's all pretty good. It's all pretty solid to me. In the comic books, there's this whole thing about armor wars where he's hunting people down that have stolen his technology, and that leads to this super bad guy called Arsenal that basically looks like the Warmonger suit.
Okay.
So like seeing the Warmonger suit, but like not seeing any of the lead up to Armor Wars and stuff was a little bit disappointing, but it could still happen, even especially now that Iron Man's not around and the Avengers have to track down.
Yeah.
Who-
I feel like there was some kind of Armor Wars announcement made.
Yeah, maybe I haven't been
There's
paying
been so many.
attention so
There's
much.
Secret Wars and then some other. I want to say it's Armor Wars. I could be wrong.
Yeah. So I think that's the only thing was like maybe more of a hint that like, hey, everyone's really into the armor and the technology he's built, and so people are starting to like look for ways to steal bits and pieces of it so that they can make their own. But no, yeah, outside of it, it's really hard for me to critique the first one
Yeah, I
because
mean,
it's just so solid.
it's a great movie. I don't have any valid complaints. I admit
No.
it.
Like even like the special effects when he was the suiting up, the actual practical armor itself, even the CGI like was just good enough. Even like that moment when he was basically fighting those two fighter jets, that was hilarious, and like the comedic timing was just perfect on some of that stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot
I
of good
just
funny moments.
Yeah, it's just such a really well done. Like it's a shame Iron Man 2 and 3
Yeah,
didn't quite
well,
last.
and like in hindsight,
Yeah.
or thinking back, I should say, I remember being disappointed with 2 and 3 and thinking like, well, this didn't last very long, but
Right.
the character of Iron Man in every other movie in the MCU that he's in is so good.
Yeah.
And they've made up more than made up for Iron Man 2 and 3. Although man, I'm gonna have to suffer through those again. I'm not sure which one I'm looking forward to less.
Yeah, I liked his appearances in the Spider-Man movies
Yeah.
more than I liked Iron Man 2 and 3.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, so now it comes down to ranking. Is this going to be at the top of the list or the bottom of the list? Because there's nothing on the list right now.
It's at the top of the list for me.
Top of the list
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah, it's 94% with critics on Rotten Tomatoes, 91% with the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. I wrote down that I think that's a little high, and I'd probably say like 85% is a little bit more what I would give it. But after our discussion, I think maybe 85 is a little too low. I'm not really sure. I'm not sure exactly. Like, I watched it.
Yeah.
I'm like, for the, I don't know, 8th time or something like that. I'm like, it's great. I love this movie. It's awesome. But,
Right.
Is it like one of the greatest movies ever? I don't know. But I think that the critic and audience scores are pretty reasonable. So this one's obviously number one for now in the ranking. It's probably going to stay that way for a while. We have coming up
Incredible
the Hulk,
Yeah.
Iron Man 2 and 3. I think at least 2 is phase 1 still,
Yeah.
right? And then I don't know what else. Thor. I like the
I
first
like
Thor,
Thor,
but it's
yeah.
not better than Iron Man, right?
Right.
So I think it's going to be number one for a while.
Yeah, Captain America was also really good.
Yep. I don't know. That's where we're going to run into problems because like, is Captain
Yeah.
America better than Iron Man?
No.
Right now, off the top of my head, I don't know.
I already know the answer. That's no.
See, this is why the show's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
We're going to have to debate it. So, do you want to just stop there, or I got one more thing we can do if you want?
I think it's good.
I bought the Avengers
Tower?
Pursuit.
Oh,
So, I don't know if this is picking up on the mic. Figured we could play Trivial Pursuit Poker.
what?
I'm just going to take one card. I'm going to read only the questions and not the answers to myself.
Okay.
See how many I think I know. And then I give it to you, and you read
In
questions, not the answers. See how many you think you know,
okay.
and then whoever thinks they know more is going to have to try to answer them. Does that make sense? So
I
I'll be
think so.
I think I know 3 of these, and you think you know 4.
No, nerd cred
Yeah, I think
being
you're gonna
tested.
Win. I think you're going to win. So I'm not going to read these out right now. We'll just have to cut all this out. It's going to be a lot of dead air for a minute. I'll just cut it out. But let me see. Okay, so George and I have reviewed the questions. Do you want to bid first, or should I?
You can bid first.
I bid 0. I don't think I know any of these. I'll bid 1. I think I can guess one of them right.
Yeah, there was 2, but they hover on the outside of my brain at the moment. And like one of them's the crazy uncle.
So do you think you can go for 2, or are you going to try to?
No,
All right, then you read me one by one.
I feel like it's gonna. All right. Pepper Potts spent over how many years curating Tony Stark's modern art collection? That would be 10 years.
All right, you're not supposed to tell me the answer.
Oh,
I'm
shoot.
supposed to guess.
Sorry.
That's all right. I was
Okay.
gonna guess 3. I was like, it's either short or like really long.
Oh, I was my
10.
guess was 20, so I was way
Okay,
off
yeah.
too.
I was gonna guess like 3. All right, so don't read me the answers.
Okay. What is the first name Nick Fury comes up with for an initiative to create a response team to defend Earth?
So I want to say Avengers Initiative, but because it says the first name that he comes up with,
Yep.
it throws me off a bit. So I'm gonna say the Defenders Initiative.
No, I was actually going to say the Defenders too. But no, we were both wrong.
What is it?
The Protector Initiative.
Pretty close. I have credit for knowing that it wasn't the Avengers.
What is the name of Pepper Potts' eccentric uncle, which Tony Stark wants to use for their child?
Did they actually name her after the child? I'm trying to think of what the girl's name is in the movie. And I want to say it's an M name, but it's got to be an uncle name, so it should be a boy. Marvin.
No. I'm almost entirely sure that's not that. I want to say Silas, but I don't think that's it either. Should I
Okay,
look?
yeah,
All right.
that's the answer.
Morgan. Ah,
I
dang
was
it,
pretty
that was
close.
right. That was
Pretty
right.
close.
Ah, dang. No, you were a lot closer than I was.
Yeah. They do name her Morgan in the movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
What is the emblem of the Ravagers?
A skull? I have no idea.
Yeah, I was gonna be like a skull. 2.
or like an old broken microwave.
Oh, what is it? Flames. Dang it.
Huh.
That's right. I was trying to picture in my head what Sylvester Stallone's shirt had, because it has the emblem on it. To what state do Tony Stark and Steve Rogers travel to retrieve the Tesseract and more Pym particles?
This is the one I think I can guess. I don't know it, but I want to say Nevada.
Oh, I was gonna say West Virginia. New Jersey. We're both wrong.
We're both. I'm way off.
What is the name of the covert Sokovian kill squad Baron Zemo once ran?
I don't know. They talk about it in Civil War. It kind of shouldn't even have an English name, but I'm gonna be even worse at trying to guess. Like
Right.
he's German, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't come up with a German name. I don't know the Kill Death Squad.
Nope. Echo Scorpion.
All right, that's kind of cool. All right, so I've lost very badly,
So did I.
but I feel like so. The reason I wanted to play this is because when we get to movies like Captain America, if I decide that I think it should go above Iron Man, and you go, no, it goes below Iron Man, and we can't agree, we'll play some Infinity Saga Trivial Pursuit poker to decide.
All right. Sounds good.
All right, so that's it for this episode. Next time we'll be covering The Incredible Hulk. We got to get to work on that one. If you want to contact us, check the show notes for our email, Twitter, Instagram. I think that's it.
Cool.
We'll catch you next time. Thank you.
We got to work on that outro.
Yeah. We can do another take. Do you have something you want to say?
No, I don't have any quickly outro just yet. Gotta think of it.
That's it. That's the episode. Tell your friends, tell your grandma, tell your friends' grandmas. Check the show notes for our socials and our email. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.
Absolutely the Best Podcast is a production of Audio Johnny, a subsidy of Corporation Johnny. Corporation Johnny. If it exists, we own it.